The lights on Nexus Station never truly went dark. Even at the deepest hour of the night cycle, the massive trading hub hummed with life. Ships came and went. Merchants argued over prices. Aliens of 100 different species walked the metal corridors, each one ignoring the others. Like the night shift, it was quiet. Nobody bothered him. He could walk his patrol route in peace and think about nothing at all. He was 29 years old. He had spent 6 years in the Republic of Korea Marine Corps before leaving Earth to find work among the stars. The pay was better out here. The work was simple: walk the corridors, watch for trouble, report anything strange. Most nights, there was nothing strange to report. Was a tall man with a lean build and short black hair. His face was calm and hard to read. Other security officers talked and joked during their shifts, preferred silence. He had learned long ago that words were often wasted. The aliens on the station did not think much of humans. To them, humans were new to space, primitive, short-lived creatures who had only recently crawled out of their small blue planet, had heard the whispers many times. He had learned to ignore them. Tonight, his route took him past the diplomatic wing. This was where the important aliens stayed: ambassadors, nobles, wealthy traders who could afford the best rooms. Security officers were not supposed to enter this area. They were only supposed to walk past and make sure the doors were sealed. Walked slowly, his boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. He checked his watch. 3 more hours until his shift ended. He was thinking about the instant noodles waiting for him in his small room when he heard something. A sound, faint, coming from a side corridor. He stopped walking, he listened. There it was again, a muffled cry, then silence. Knew he should call for backup. That was the protocol. He reached for his communicator, then stopped. If he called and it was nothing, he would look foolish. The other officers already thought he was too serious, too paranoid. He decided to check first, just a quick look. He moved toward the sound. His footsteps became lighter, more careful. Years of training took over without him thinking about it. His hand moved to the small stun baton on his belt. It was not much of a weapon, but it was all he had. The side corridor was darker than the main hallway. Saw 3 figures standing in the shadows. They wore black clothes and masks that covered their faces. In front of them, pressed against the wall, was a 4th figure, a woman. She was tall and slender, with pale silver skin that seemed to glow faintly. Her eyes were wide with fear. Recognized her species immediately. One of the oldest and most powerful races in the galaxy. They were known for their beauty, their telepathic abilities, and their pride. They looked down on almost everyone, especially humans. But right now, this woman looked very small and very afraid. One of the masked figures held a knife. It was not a normal knife. It glowed with a faint blue light, a plasma blade. One cut from that weapon could kill. Did not think, he moved. The first attacker did not see him coming. Grabbed the man's head from behind and twisted. There was a sharp crack and the body fell. The other 2 turned in surprise. The woman screamed, pulled the plasma blade from the dead man's hand and faced the remaining attackers. They were fast, trained, but had spent years learning how to fight in small spaces against multiple enemies. He had done it in dark buildings in foreign countries. He had done it in ship corridors during pirate attacks. This was familiar ground. The second attacker swung at him, ducked under the blow and drove the plasma blade into the man's chest. The body fell with a heavy sound. The third attacker tried to run, threw the blade. It spun through the air and struck the man in the back of the leg. He fell screaming. The whole fight had taken less than 10 seconds. Walked to the fallen attacker and pressed his boot against the man's throat. The screaming stopped. The man stared up at him with terrified eyes. "Who sent you?" asked. His voice was calm and cold. The man said nothing. He was shaking. Pressed harder. "I will ask one more time. Before the man could answer, felt a sharp pain in his side. He looked down and saw blood spreading across his shirt. One of the attackers had cut him during the fight. He had not even noticed. The pain hit him all at once. His vision blurred. He stumbled but did not fall. He kept his boot on the attacker's throat. "You," the woman whispered. She was staring at him with wide eyes. "You are human." Looked at her. Blood was dripping from his fingers onto the metal floor. "Yes," he said simply. "You saved me. You were in danger." She stepped closer. Her silver skin seemed to glow brighter now. She was beautiful in a way that did not seem real, and she was looking at him like she had never seen anything like him before. "Do you know who I am?" she asked. Shook his head. The pain was getting worse. His legs felt weak. "I am Princess of the Empire, daughter of Queen." Blinked. A princess. He had just saved an alien princess. This was going to be a lot of paperwork. "That is good to know," he managed to say. Then his legs gave out. He fell to his knees, still keeping one hand on his wound. The world was spinning around him. He heard the princess calling for help. He heard footsteps running toward them. The last thing he saw before everything went dark was her face. She was kneeling beside him, her silver hands pressed against his wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Her eyes were filled with something he did not expect. Gratitude and wonder. Then there was only darkness. When the guards finally arrived, they found their princess covered in human blood, holding an unconscious human male in her arms. They found 2 dead assassins and 1 barely alive. They found a scene of violence that should not have been possible. 1 human against 3 trained killers. They did not understand. But Princess understood. She had watched him move. She had seen his eyes during the fight. There was no fear in them, no hesitation, only a cold, terrible focus. She had always been told that humans were primitive, weak, unimportant. She realized now that she had been told lies. And as she held this strange, bleeding human in her arms, she made a decision. She would not let him die. She would not let him be forgotten. Whatever it took, she would repay this debt. She did not know yet that this decision would change everything, not just for her, not just for him, but for her entire empire. The guards lifted the unconscious human and carried him to the ship. The princess followed, never taking her eyes off him. The night cycle on Nexus Station continued as if nothing had happened. Ships came and went. Merchants argued. Aliens walked the corridors. Nobody noticed that a human had just started a chain of events that would shake the stars. Woke up slowly. His body felt strange, light. The pain in his side was gone, replaced by a dull warmth. He opened his eyes and saw a ceiling he did not recognize. It was white, smooth, curved in a way that human architecture never was. Small lights floated in the air above him, moving gently like living things. He tried to sit up. His body responded, but slowly. He looked down at himself. He was wearing clean white clothes that were not his own. His wound was covered by something that looked like liquid silver. "You are awake." Turned his head. Princess was sitting on a chair beside him. She looked different now. She wore a flowing dress of deep blue, and her silver hair was arranged in an elegant style. She looked like royalty. She looked like someone who should not be sitting beside a human security guard. "Where am I?" asked. His voice was rough. "You are aboard the royal cruiser. We left Nexus Station 12 hours ago." Stared at her. "You took me from the station." "Yes." "Without asking me." The princess looked away. There was something in her expression that might have been guilt. "I am sorry. There was no time. Your wound was severe. Our medical technology is far more advanced than what the station could offer. If we had waited, you would have died." Processed this information. He was on an alien ship, flying away from everything he knew, because a princess had decided to save his life. "I need to go back," he said. "That is not possible." "Why?" Princess stood up and walked to a window. Outside could see stars moving past. They were traveling at incredible speed. Nexus Station was already far behind. "Do you know anything about customs?" she asked. Shook his head. "Among my people there is a law as old as our civilization. It is called the binding of debt. When someone saves the life of a royal, they become bound to that royal. Their lives are connected. The debt must be honored." Felt a cold feeling in his chest. What does that mean? It means you cannot leave. Not until the debt is repaid or released. If I send you away now, it would be seen as a great insult. My family's honor would be damaged. There would be political consequences. "I am not part of your politics," said. His voice was harder now. "I am a human. Your laws do not apply to me." The princess turned to face him. Her eyes were a pale violet color, and they held a sadness that surprised him. "I know, and I am truly sorry, but my mother, the queen, has already been informed of what happened. She has already invoked the binding of debt. There is nothing I can do." Was silent for a long moment. He looked at his hands. They were clean now, but he remembered the blood on them, the weight of the plasma blade, the sound of bodies falling. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. "We travel to Mai. You will be presented to my mother. She will decide what role you will play in the court." "And if I refuse?" The princess hesitated. The queen does not accept refusal. Closed his eyes. He had fought in wars. He had survived ambushes and betrayals. He had faced death many times, but he had always been free. He had always had choices. Now, for the first time in his life, he had none. The princess approached him slowly. She sat on the edge of his bed. This close, he could see that her skin was not simply silver, but contained tiny patterns that shifted like light on water. "May I ask you something?" she said. Opened his eyes and looked at her. "Last night when you fought those men, I watched you. I have seen warriors train. I have seen combat simulations, but I have never seen anything like what you did. You moved without hesitation. You killed without mercy. And your eyes," she paused, searching for words. "Your eyes were empty, like death itself was looking through them." Said nothing. "Humans are supposed to be weak," she continued. "That is what we are taught. You are young as a species. You have no telepathy, no advanced biology. Your bodies are fragile compared to many races, but you were not weak. You were terrifying." Looked at her for a long moment, then he spoke. "Where I come from, there is a saying. The nail that sticks out gets hammered down. It means that if you show weakness, you will be destroyed. Humans learned this lesson a long time ago. We fought each other for thousands of years. We fought over land, over food, over ideas. We learned that survival belongs to those who can endure, those who can adapt, those who can do whatever is necessary." The princess listened with wide eyes. "Your people have telepathy," continued. "You can read minds. You can share thoughts. You probably solved your conflicts with understanding and communication. But humans could not do that. We had to fight. Every generation we fought, and we got better at it. We got very, very good at killing." There was no pride in his voice, no shame either. He was simply stating facts. "You are not just strong," the princess whispered. "You are survivors. We are what we needed to be." The princess was quiet for a long time. She looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time, like he was a puzzle she could not solve. "I read your file from the station," she said finally. "You served in your planet's military for 6 years. You fought in something called the Korean Marine Corps. What is that?" "Marines are soldiers who fight on land and sea. We are sent into the worst places. We do the hardest jobs. We are trained to keep fighting even when everything goes wrong. And you chose this life." "I was good at it." The princess nodded slowly. "I am beginning to understand." She stood up and walked toward the door. Before she left, she turned back to look at him. "I cannot free you from the binding of debt. That power belongs only to my mother, but I promise you this, I will speak on your behalf. I will ask her to treat you with honor. You saved my life. That means something to me, even if it means nothing to my people." Watched her go. The door closed behind her with a soft sound. He lay back on the bed and stared at the floating lights above him. He was a prisoner, a captive of alien royalty, bound by laws he did not understand and did not accept. But he was also alive, and as long as he was alive there was a chance. He would learn their ways. He would watch and wait. He would find the weaknesses in their system, and when the time was right, he would make his move. He closed his eyes and let his breathing slow. His body needed rest. His mind needed time to plan. The stars continued to move past the window. The ship carried him deeper into space, farther from Earth, farther from everything he had known. But was not afraid. He had been in worse situations. He had survived worse odds. And he had a feeling that this was only the beginning. Days passed. The princess visited him often. She brought him food and books about her culture. She asked him endless questions about Earth, about humans, about the way his people lived and thought and fought. Answered her questions carefully. He was polite but distant. He did not trust her. He did not trust anyone on this ship. But he watched and he learned. He learned that lived for hundreds of years. He learned that they valued art and philosophy above all things. He learned that they had not fought a true war in over 1,000 years. And he learned that they had enemies, many enemies, races that watched them with hungry eyes, waiting for signs of weakness. The princess did not know it, but she had given him valuable information. The empire was powerful but soft. It had forgotten what real conflict looked like. And now, by strange fate, it had captured a human who knew nothing but conflict. Did not know what the future would bring, but he knew one thing for certain. This empire was not prepared for him. That was called Prime. Saw it through the ship's window as they approached. It was a beautiful planet, blue and silver, wrapped in clouds that seemed to glow from within. Cities floated in the sky, connected by bridges of light. Everything looked peaceful, perfect, like a painting of paradise. Did not trust it. Beautiful things often hid ugly truths. The ship landed in a palace that sat on top of a mountain. The mountain itself had been carved into a shape, with waterfalls flowing down its sides and gardens growing on every level. Had never seen anything like it. Even the air smelled different here. Clean and sweet, like flowers he had no name for. Guards came to escort him. They were tall in silver armor, and they looked at him like he was an insect that had crawled into their home, kept his face empty. He had learned long ago that showing emotion was a weakness. Princess walked beside him. She had changed into formal robes of pure white, and she carried herself with the dignity of her rank, but noticed that her hands were slightly shaking. She was nervous. That was not a good sign. They walked through corridors made of crystal and light, stopped to stare as they passed, heard whispers following him like shadows. He caught words here and there. Human, primitive, why is it here? He ignored them all. Finally, they reached a great door made of something that looked like frozen light. The guards stopped. The door opened slowly, revealing a throne room that stretched so far could barely see the end. And on a throne of silver and stars sat Queen. She was old, could feel it even from this distance. She was old in a way that had nothing to do with her appearance. Her face was smooth and beautiful like her daughter's, but her eyes were ancient. They had seen centuries pass. They had watched civilizations rise and fall. They held a weight that pressed against mind like a physical force. The Queen's gaze found him immediately. He felt her attention like a cold wind. Princess bowed deeply. "Mother, I present the human who saved my life." The Queen said nothing. She simply watched. The silence stretched on for what felt like hours. Finally she spoke. Her voice was soft, but it filled the entire room. "Come closer, human." Walked forward. He did not bow. He did not look away. He met her ancient eyes with his own. Whispers erupted throughout the court. A human daring to look directly at the queen. It was unthinkable. Guards moved their hands toward their weapons. But the queen raised one finger, and everyone fell silent. "You do not bow," she observed. "I bow to no one I do not choose to serve," replied. His voice was calm and steady. More whispers. The guards looked ready to kill him. The queen's expression did not change. "You speak boldly for a creature whose species has only traveled the stars for a single century. Age does not equal wisdom. My people have learned more about survival in our short history than many ancient races ever will." The queen tilted her head slightly. Then she did something that shocked the entire court. She smiled, just a tiny curve of her lips, but it was unmistakable. "Interesting," she said. She rose from her throne. Her robes flowed around her like liquid silver. She descended the steps slowly, her eyes never leaving his face. When she stood before him, he realized she was taller than him by almost a head. But he did not feel small. He had faced death too many times to feel small in front of anyone. "I am going to enter your mind," she said. "Do not resist." Before could respond, he felt something press against his thoughts. It was not painful, but it was invasive, like fingers reaching into his skull, searching through his memories. He did not fight it, but he did not make it easy either. The queen's eyes widened slightly. She pushed deeper, felt her presence moving through his mind, trying to read his thoughts, his fears, his secrets. And then suddenly she pulled back. Her expression had changed. For the first time, there was something other than cold calculation in her eyes. There was surprise, and something that might have been respect. "Your mind," she said slowly, "is chaos." Said nothing. "I have read the minds of thousands of beings," the queen continued. "Other races, never humans. I thought your species was simply too primitive to shield your thoughts, but that is not it at all. Your minds are not shielded, they are storms. Layers upon layers of contradictions. Logic and emotion twisted together, memories that cut like blades." She paused. "I could not read you clearly, not because you are weak, because you are too much." The court was completely silent now. Every was staring at with new eyes. "What do you want from me?" asked. The queen returned to her throne. She sat down and folded her hands in her lap. "My daughter tells me you killed 2 trained assassins and captured a third. She tells me you did this alone, with no weapons except those you took from your enemies. She tells me you sustained a wound that should have killed you, and you kept fighting. That is true. Why did you save her?" Considered the question. "She was in danger, I could help, so I did." A noble near the front of the crowd laughed. "How primitive. He has no political motive, no strategy. He simply acted like an animal following instinct." Other nobles joined the laughter. The sound echoed through the throne room like the calls of mockingbirds. But the queen did not laugh. She watched with those ancient eyes, and she saw what the others could not see. She saw a man who did not need complicated reasons to do what was right. She saw a man who could make a decision in a single heartbeat and never look back. She saw something her empire had lost a long time ago. "Strength." "Silence," she commanded, and the laughter died instantly. "High Commander," she called. A male stepped forward from the crowd. He was tall even by standards, with sharp features and eyes like ice. He wore the uniform of a military officer, and he moved with the confidence of someone who had never lost a fight. He looked at with open contempt. "My queen," he said, bowing deeply. "What do you think of this human?" the queen asked. Sneered, "I think he is an animal who got lucky. Assassins work in shadows. They are not fighters. Any trained warrior could have done what he did." "Then you will not mind if he serves as my daughter's guardian." The room went completely still. Stared at the queen. Guardian, a human, protecting a princess of the blood. He shook his head. My queen, this is madness. It would be an insult to our entire civilization. My daughter's life was saved by this human while my guard stood idle, the queen said coldly. That is the true insult. Step back, his face dark with anger. The queen turned her gaze back to, You saved my daughter's life. By our laws, you are bound to the debt. I could make you a servant. I could make you a slave. Instead, I am giving you a position of honor. You will serve as princess' personal guardian. You will protect her with your life. Met her eyes, and if I refuse? You will not refuse, the queen said simply. Because I see what you are. You are a protector. It is in your blood. You could no more refuse to guard someone than you could refuse to breathe. Was silent. He hated that she was right. This is my decision, the queen announced to the court. The human will serve as guardian to princess. He will remain in the palace. He will be given quarters and training facilities, and he will be treated with the respect due to his position. She looked at one last time. Do not make me regret this, human. Bowed his head slightly. It was not a bow of submission. It was a bow of acknowledgement. The game had changed. He was no longer just a prisoner. He was a guardian. And he would play this new role perfectly, until he understood exactly what the queen really wanted from him. Because knew one thing for certain. Queens never did anything without a deeper reason. The weeks that followed were the hardest of life, not because of physical danger, not because of combat, but because of something far more difficult. Patience. Every day he woke before dawn in his small room in the palace. It was a nice room by human standards, but it was placed in the servants' wing, far from the noble quarters, a reminder of his place. He would exercise in the empty training halls before anyone else arrived, push-ups, sit-ups, running, shadowboxing. He kept his body sharp because a dull blade was a dead blade. Then he would wash, dress in the simple clothes they gave him and go to Princess' chambers. He would stand outside her door until she woke. He would follow her to breakfast, to her lessons, to her meetings. He would stand behind her in silence, watching everything, saying nothing. The nobles hated him. They called him names when they passed. The pet, the queen's animal, the primitive. They would laugh and make jokes about his small ears, his flat face, his strange human body. Some would pretend to trip near him and then curse at him for being in the way. Endured it all. High Commander was the worst. He never missed a chance to challenge. Every morning he would come to the training hall and demand to see what the human could do. He would send young officers to spar with, hoping to see him beaten and humiliated. But never accepted these challenges. He would simply bow his head and say, My duty is to protect the princess, not to fight for entertainment. This made even angrier. You are a coward, he would spit. You hide behind your duty because you know you would lose. Said nothing. He let the words wash over him like rain. Inside, he was watching, learning. Every insult told him something about his enemies. Every challenge showed him their weaknesses, was proud and hot-tempered. He could be provoked into making mistakes. The young officers were skilled but untested. They had never faced real combat. Stored this information away, like a soldier preparing for war. Princess noticed everything. At first, she tried to defend him. When nobles made cruel jokes, she would speak sharply to them. When insulted him, she would remind the commander of his place, but asked her to stop. If you protect me, they will think I am truly weak, he explained one evening. Let them believe what they want. Their beliefs will be their downfall. The princess looked at him with confusion. How can you bear it, the constant disrespect? Shrugged, words do not break bones. I have been through worse. Worse than this. Was quiet for a moment, then he spoke. When I was young, before I joined the military, I lived in a neighborhood where violence was common. Older boys would beat me every day because I had no father to protect me. I would come home covered in bruises and my mother would cry because she could not help me. He paused. One day, I stopped crying. I stopped running. I let them hit me until my body became numb to pain, and then I started hitting back. The princess stared at him. Pain is temporary, continued. Shame is temporary, but strength once built lasts forever. Every insult I endure here is another brick in the wall of my patience. When the wall is high enough, nothing will be able to break through. The princess was silent for a long time. Finally, she said, I think I understand you a little better now. You should not try to understand me, princess. You should focus on your own path. I am just a shadow that walks behind you. You are more than that. Did not respond. He turned and took his position by the door, ending the conversation. But the princess did not stop watching him, and she did not stop thinking about his words. As the weeks passed, something strange began to happen. The servants started treating differently. At first, they had ignored him like everyone else, but they noticed things. They noticed that he never complained about his small room. They noticed that he thanked them when they brought him food. They noticed that he treated them exactly the same way he treated the nobles. With respect. One morning, a young servant girl tripped while carrying a tray near the princess's chambers. She fell hard and the tray went flying. Soup spilled everywhere. The girl looked terrified. In society, such a mistake could mean severe punishment. Before anyone could react was there. He helped the girl to her feet and began picking up the broken dishes. Are you hurt? He asked. The girl stared at him with huge eyes. I am fine, but the mess. Messes can be cleaned. Are you sure you are not hurt? And no, I am fine. Nodded, he finished cleaning up the broken pieces and handed them to her. Be more careful next time. The floor here is slippery. Then he returned to his position by the door, as if nothing had happened. The girl bowed deeply and hurried away. Within hours, the story had spread through the servants' quarters. The human guardian had helped one of them, had spoken kindly to her, had shown her respect. From that day on, the servants began to nod at when they passed, small signs of acknowledgement, small gestures of respect. They would leave extra food outside his door. They would warn him when certain nobles were in bad moods. A network was forming around him, without anyone in power noticing. One evening, Princess asked him about it. The servants seem to like you, she said. Why is that? Was standing by the window, watching the sunset paint the floating cities in shades of gold. Because I treat them like people. Is that unusual among humans? It should not be unusual anywhere, but it often is. The princess moved to stand beside him. She was tall enough that her eyes were almost level with his. This close, he could see the faint patterns moving beneath her silver skin. They were beautiful, but he did not let himself think about that. You are not what I expected, she said quietly. What did you expect? A warrior, a fighter, someone who solved every problem with violence. Turned to look at her. Violence is a tool. A soldier who only knows violence is a poor soldier. The best warriors are those who know when not to fight. And when is that? When fighting would cost more than winning would gain. When patience will achieve what force cannot. When your enemy expects you to attack, and the best weapon is to do nothing. The princess smiled slightly. You sound like a philosopher. I am just a man who has made many mistakes and learned from some of them. They stood in silence, watching the last light of the sun disappear behind the floating cities. The sky turned deep purple, then black, then filled with stars. My mother is testing you, the princess said suddenly. Did not react, I know. She wants to see if you will break, if you will become angry and do something foolish, if you will prove that humans are primitive after all. I know. And you are not going to give her what she wants. Looked at the stars. Somewhere out there impossibly far away was Earth, his home, his people. I am going to show her something she has never seen before, he said quietly. A human who cannot be broken, no matter how long it takes, No matter what they do, I will endure, I will watch, I will wait, and when the time comes I will prove that they were wrong about all of us." The princess looked at him with something new in her eyes, something that might have been admiration, or hope, or perhaps something else entirely. "I believe you," she whispered. And deep in her heart, she began to hope that this strange, patient, unbreakable human would change everything. She did not know yet how right she was. The Festival of Stars was the most important celebration in the Empire. It happened once every 100 years, marking the anniversary of the Empire's founding. Nobles came from every corner of space. Ambassadors from a dozen allied races attended. Even enemies sent representatives, bound by ancient laws of peace. The Queen's throne room was transformed into a sea of light and color. Thousands of guests filled the vast space, dressed in their finest clothes. Music floated through the air, played by instruments that had no human names. Food and drink flowed endlessly. Stood in the shadows behind Princess, watching everything. He did not like crowds. Too many bodies meant too many threats, too many angles of attack. His eyes moved constantly, scanning faces, looking for anything wrong. The princess was dancing with a young noble. She looked beautiful in her gown of silver and blue. She was smiling, laughing at something her partner said. For once, she looked happy. Stayed alert. High Commander passed by him, surrounded by his officers. The commander paused to sneer. "Still playing guardian, human. You should be cleaning floors, not attending royal events." Said nothing. His eyes continued to scan the crowd. Laughed and moved on. His officers laughed with him. But one of them looked back. A young officer with nervous eyes. He held his gaze for half a second too long, then quickly looked away. Noticed, he filed the information away. Something was wrong tonight. He could feel it in his bones. The air felt heavy. The laughter felt forced, and there were too many servants moving toward the exits. The princess returned from her dance, slightly out of breath. "You look tense," she said. "I am always tense." "More than usual, I mean." Hesitated. "Something feels wrong, I cannot explain it." The princess looked around the room. Everything seemed normal. Guests were enjoying themselves. Guards were at their posts. The queen sat on her throne, receiving visitors. "I do not see anything unusual," she said. "That is what worries me." Before she could respond, the lights went out. Complete darkness fell over the throne room. For a moment there was silence. Then screaming started. Moved instantly. He grabbed the princess and pulled her to the floor. "Stay down," he commanded. The screaming grew louder. He heard the sound of plasma blades igniting. Bright blue lights cut through the darkness. Shadows moved. Bodies fell. Emergency lights flickered on, painting everything in dim red. Saw the attackers. 12 of them, maybe more. They wore black armor and moved with deadly precision. They were cutting through the guards like farmers cutting wheat. This was not like the last attack. These were not simple assassins. These were soldiers. "Stay behind me," said to the princess. He grabbed a plasma blade from a fallen guard and pushed toward the nearest attacker. The man saw him coming and swung his blade, ducked under the strike and drove his blade into the attacker's throat. The body dropped. Another attacker came from his left, spun, blocked a strike and cut the man across the chest. 2 more attacked together, moved between them, letting their blades pass on either side of him, then killed them both with quick strikes. The nobles were running in panic. The guards were falling, but kept fighting. An attacker aimed at the princess, threw his blade. It spun through the air and buried itself in the man's skull. Then he grabbed another blade from a dead body and kept moving. A strike caught his arm. Blood sprayed. He did not stop. Another strike cut his side. He kept fighting. A third strike sliced his back. He ignored the pain. All that mattered was keeping the princess alive. The queen's personal guards had formed a wall around her throne. Good, She was protected, but the attackers were focused on something else. They were pushing toward the princess. All of them. This was a coordinated assassination attempt, and was the target. Planted himself between the princess and the remaining attackers. 5 left. They circled him like wolves. "One human," one of them laughed. "Against 5 of us, this will be easy." Said nothing. He let his body relax. His breathing slowed. His mind became empty and clear. The first attacker charged, stepped to the side, grabbed the man's arm and broke it at the elbow. The scream was cut short once blade found his heart. 4 left. 2 attacked at once, dropped low, letting their blades cross above his head. He struck one in the knee, bringing him down, then rolled away from the other's counterattack. A quick spin, a slash, and another body fell. 2 left. They hesitated now. They had seen what this human could do. Fear was creeping into their eyes. Did not wait, he attacked. He moved faster than they expected. His blade was everywhere at once. He cut one across the face, blinding him. Then he turned to the other, blocked a desperate strike, and drove his blade through the man's chest. 1 left. The blind one was stumbling backward, screaming. Walked toward him slowly. Blood was dripping from his wounds. His clothes were soaked red, but his eyes were calm, empty, like looking into the void. "Who sent you?" he asked. The attacker tried to swing his blade, caught his wrist, twisted, and the weapon clattered to the floor. "Who sent you?" The man spat at him. "You will never know, kill me. More will come, the princess will die, all of you will die." Looked at him for a long moment. Then he broke the man's neck with a single twist. The throne room fell silent. Stood amid the carnage, breathing hard. Bodies lay everywhere. The floor was slick with blood. Nobles were huddled against the walls, staring in horror. But the princess was alive. That was all that mattered. He turned to look at her. She was on the floor where he had left her, unharmed. Her eyes were wide with shock. Her hands were trembling. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She shook her head slowly. She could not speak. Nodded, then his legs wobbled. The blood loss was catching up to him. The world started to spin. Strong hands caught him before he fell. He looked up and saw High Commander. The commander's face was pale. He was looking at like he was seeing a ghost. "Get the medics," ordered. His voice was shaking. "Get them now." "I am fine," said, but his voice was weak. "You are not fine. You have at least 5 serious wounds. Any would be dead." Tried to stand on his own, but his body would not obey. "The princess. She is safe because of you." Medics rushed over. They began applying silver patches to his wounds, felt the strange warmth of medicine spreading through his body. He looked across the room. The queen was still on her throne. Her guards surrounded her, but she was leaning forward, staring at him. There was no coldness in her eyes now. There was only intense, burning interest. She had just watched a single human slaughter 12 trained killers to protect her daughter. She had just seen something she thought was impossible. Princess crawled to side. Tears were streaming down her silver face. "You fool," she whispered. "You could have died." "That is my job." "No, your job is to protect me, not to do what you did. You fought like a human," finished for her. She looked at him with eyes full of something he could not name. "Yes," she whispered, "like a human." The medics lifted him onto a stretcher. As they carried him away, he saw the nobles watching him. The fear in their eyes was gone. Something else had taken its place. Respect. And fear of a different kind. Not fear of an animal, but fear of something they did not understand. Something powerful, something dangerous. A human who would not stop fighting until he was dead. They did not know what to do with him now. And that thought, as darkness finally took him, was exactly where he wanted them. Woke in a different room than before. It was larger, more comfortable. The walls were decorated with patterns of light, and the window looked out over the most beautiful gardens in the palace. He tried to sit up and pain shot through his body. His wounds were healing, but they were not healed yet. Rest. The voice came from the shadows, turned his head and saw Queen sitting in a chair by the wall. She was alone. No guards, no servants, just her, watching him with those ancient eyes. "Your Majesty," said. He tried to bow his head, but even that small movement hurt. "I said rest, do not move." Lay back against the pillows. He did not like being helpless in front of anyone, especially her, but he had no choice. The Queen stood and walked to his bedside. She looked down at him for a long moment. Her expression was unreadable. "You should be dead," she said finally. "The wounds you received would kill any, they would kill most species in the galaxy. Yet here you are, awake, alert, already trying to move. Humans are hard to kill." "So I am learning." She pulled a chair close to his bed and sat down. "I have many questions." Waited. The assassins at the festival were not ordinary killers. They were members of an organization called the Black Dawn. They are among the most feared warriors in the galaxy. They have never failed to kill a target. She paused. Until last night. They were good, admitted, better than the ones on the station. And yet you killed them all, alone, while protecting my daughter. The Queen leaned forward. "Tell me about humanity. Tell me the truth. Not the reports our scientists have written, not the stories our diplomats tell. The truth." Was quiet for a moment. He considered lying. He considered telling her what she wanted to hear, but something in her eyes told him that would be a mistake. She had lived for centuries. She had heard every lie ever told. Only the truth would satisfy her. "Humans are not special," he began. "We have no telepathy, no natural weapons. Our bodies are average at best. We live short lives compared to most advanced species. By every measure, we should be at the bottom of the galactic ladder. And yet you are not." "No, we are not, because we have something else, something that cannot be measured." "What is that?" Looked at the ceiling. He thought about Earth, about human history, about all the wars, the famines, the plagues, the disasters that should have destroyed them. "Earth is not a kind planet," he said slowly. "It is not like Prime, where everything is beautiful and peaceful. Earth is dangerous. The weather can kill you. The animals can kill you. The plants can kill you. Even the water can kill you if you are not careful." The Queen listened in silence. "We evolved under constant threat," continued. "We never had telepathy to solve our conflicts, so we fought. Generation after generation we fought. We fought the animals. We fought the environment. We fought each other. We fought until fighting became part of our blood." "You are saying your species is naturally violent." "I am saying we are naturally survivors. Violence is just one of the tools we use. When violence is needed, we become very good at it. When other tools are needed, we learn those too. We adapt. We endure. We refuse to die." The Queen stood and walked to the window. She looked out at her beautiful gardens, her floating cities, her perfect empire. "We have been at peace for over 1,000 years, she said quietly. "Our last war was so long ago that it has become legend. We have focused on art, on philosophy, on the pursuit of knowledge. We believed that violence was primitive, unnecessary, a relic of less evolved times. And now," she turned back to face him, "now our enemies grow bold. The races we once defeated have rebuilt. They watch us with hungry eyes. They test our borders. They send assassins to kill my daughter." Her voice became hard. "And my guards, my warriors, my proud soldiers, they fall like leaves before the wind." Understood now. He understood why she had kept him, why she had made him a guardian, why she was sitting beside his bed asking these questions. "You want me to teach them," he said. The Queen's expression did not change, but he saw confirmation in her eyes. "Your empire is powerful but soft," continued. 1,000 years of peace has made you forget what real conflict looks like. Your warriors train for ceremony, not combat. They have skills, but they have never been tested. They have never felt real fear, real pain, real desperation. And you can change this. I do not know, but I know that humans have a saying, what does not kill you makes you stronger. Your people have not faced true danger in 1,000 years. They have not been made stronger. They have been made weaker without knowing it. The queen walked back to her chair. She sat down heavily, looking older than before. For the first time, saw the weight she carried, the burden of an empire, the fear of watching everything she had built crumble. I have ruled for 400 years, she said. I have seen generations come and go. I have kept my people safe through wisdom and diplomacy. But now, for the first time, I feel something I have not felt since I was young. What is that? Fear, she looked at him directly. Not for myself, for my people, for my daughter, for the future of everything we have built. Was silent, he did not know what to say. You were right to refuse to bow to me, the queen said suddenly. You have a strength that has nothing to do with rank or power. It comes from inside, from a lifetime of struggle. She paused. I need that strength. My empire needs it. Will you help us? Considered the question. He could refuse. He could demand his freedom. He could force her to release him and return to human space. But what would he return to? Another security job, another empty life. Here he had a purpose. Here he could make a difference. Here he could show the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. I have conditions, he said. The queen raised an eyebrow. You are bargaining with a queen. I am speaking honestly with someone who needs my help. Those are different things. A small smile crossed her face. Very well, what are your conditions? First, I will not be a slave. I work with you, not for you. If I stay, it is by choice. Agreed. Second, I will train your warriors my way. No interference. No complaints. If they cannot handle it, they were never meant to be warriors. That may be difficult for some nobles to accept. Then they should find easier work. The queen actually laughed. It was a short, surprised sound like she had not expected it herself. What else? Third, princess safety remains my priority. If I am training others, I need people I can trust to watch her when I cannot. I will assign my personal guards to her. Shook his head. Your personal guards failed during the festival. I will choose her protectors myself. I will train them personally. The queen was quiet for a moment, then she nodded. Very well, is that all? One more thing, met her ancient eyes with his own. When the time comes, when your enemies finally attack, I want to be on the front line, not as a guardian, as a soldier. The queen studied him. You would fight for an empire that is not yours, risk your life for people who called you primitive. I am not fighting for them. I am fighting for what I believe in, and I believe that strength should protect the weak, not prey upon them. Your people have forgotten how to fight. Your enemies want to destroy them. Someone has to stand between. The queen rose. She looked down at him with an expression he could not read. When I first saw you, I thought you were an interesting curiosity, a primitive creature who had gotten lucky. She shook her head slowly. I was blind. You are something far more dangerous. You are a human, and now I understand what that means. She walked toward the door. Before she left, she turned back one last time. Rest and heal. When you are ready, you will begin training my warriors, and when our enemies come, she smiled, and for a moment she looked young and fierce. They will learn to fear the human who would not die. The door closed behind her. Lay in his bed, looking at the ceiling. He had just agreed to something that would change everything, for humanity, for himself. He did not know what the future would bring. But for the first time since he arrived in this strange empire, he felt something he had not felt in a long time. Purpose. And that, he decided, was worth fighting for. Months passed like water through fingers. The palace changed. The empire changed. And everyone knew who was responsible. Became a legend. He trained the new generation of soldiers in the lower halls of the palace. The training was brutal. Many quit in the first week. Those who remained were pushed beyond anything they had ever experienced. They ran until their legs burned. They fought until their bodies screamed. They were broken down and built back up again. And slowly, they became something new. The nobles stopped calling him the pet. A new name spread through the court, whispered with a mixture of fear and respect. The human blade. They said he never slept. They said he could kill 10 warriors without breaking a sweat. They said his eyes could see through walls and read minds. None of this was true, of course, but did not correct them. Fear was a useful weapon. High Commander changed too. After the festival massacre, something in him broke. He had spent his life believing we're the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Watching a single human do what his soldiers could not had shattered that belief. Now he came to watch train the new soldiers. He did not speak. He did not mock. He just watched and learned. One day, he approached after a training session. "I owe you an apology," said stiffly. The words seemed to hurt him. Wiped sweat from his face with a towel. For what? For everything, the insults, the challenges, the disrespect. Looked at the ground. "I was wrong about you, about humans. I let my pride blind me." Was quiet for a moment. Then he held out his hand. "Among my people, we shake hands when we make peace. It means we are holding our weapon hand out as a sign of trust." Stared at the offered hand. Then slowly he reached out and grasped it. His grip was uncertain, but it was sincere. "Train with us tomorrow," said. "You have skill. You just need to learn how to use it when everything goes wrong." Something flickered in his eyes, surprise perhaps, or gratitude. "I will be there." He walked away and allowed himself a small smile. Another ally, another brick in the wall he was building. Princess visited him every evening. She would sit in the training hall and watch him work. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they were silent together. A strange bond had formed between them, different from anything either had known before. One evening, she asked him a question that had been bothering her for a long time. "Do you miss your home?" Stopped stretching and looked at her. "Sometimes I miss the food, the language, the faces that looked like mine." "Will you ever go back?" He considered the question carefully. "I do not know. Earth is far away, and the life I had there feels like it belonged to someone else." The princess moved closer to him. Her silver skin glowed softly in the evening light. "I have spoken to my mother many times. I have asked her to release you from the binding of debt. Every time she refuses." "I know. It is not fair. You saved my life. You have saved it twice now. You have served with honor. You should be free to choose your own path." Looked at her with gentle eyes. "I made my choice a long time ago, princess. The moment I decided to fight for you instead of running away. The moment I agreed to train your warriors. The moment I stopped thinking of myself as a prisoner." "What do you mean?" "I mean that freedom is not just about being able to leave. It is about choosing what you want to do with your life." He paused. "I choose to be here, not because of the debt, not because of your mother, because I believe in what I am doing." The princess stared at him. Tears were forming in her violet eyes. "You truly mean that?" "I do." She moved closer until she was standing right in front of him. She was taller, but somehow in that moment she seemed small, vulnerable, human. "I have something to tell you," she said softly. "I have arranged for a ship. It is hidden in the lower docks. You can use it to escape. Return to human space. Return to Earth if you want. I will take the blame. I will tell them you overpowered me and stole the ship." Looked at her for a long moment. She was offering him everything he had wanted when he first arrived. Freedom, home, his old life. But his old life was empty. His old life was patrols in empty corridors, instant noodles in a small room, loneliness disguised as peace. Here he had purpose. He had people who needed him. He had a princess who would sacrifice her reputation to give him freedom. He had something worth fighting for. "No," he said simply. The princess blinked. "No." I came here by accident. I stayed because I had no choice, but now I stay because I want to." He reached out and gently touched her hand. "Your people need someone to show them what strength really means, not the strength of muscles or weapons, the strength to face fear, the strength to endure, the strength to keep fighting when everything seems lost." Her hand trembled under his touch. "And maybe," he continued softly, "I was never meant to go back. Maybe I was meant to be here in this place, at this time, for this purpose." A tear rolled down her silver cheek. "You are choosing to stay, truly." "I am choosing you, all of you, your people, your empire, your future." He smiled, and for once the hardness left his face. He looked young, almost peaceful. "Some things are worth more than freedom." The princess stared at him with glistening eyes. Then, slowly, she leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his. It was a gesture, the most intimate sign of trust and connection. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for everything." They stood there for a long time, foreheads touching, hearts beating together in the quiet evening light. Neither of them knew that the queen was watching through hidden sensors. Neither of them saw the smile that crossed her ancient face, a smile of satisfaction, of hope, of something that might have been affection. She had brought a human into her palace to test her daughter, to see if he could be useful, to find weakness she could exploit. Instead, she had found something she did not expect. She had found a weapon that could not be bought, threatened, or broken. She had found loyalty that came from the heart, not from duty. She had found the key to her empire's survival. And she would never let him go. Years later, when the enemies of the empire finally gathered their forces and launched their great invasion, they expected an easy victory. They were soft, they said, weak. Their warriors were ceremonial dancers, not true soldiers. They were wrong. When the enemy fleet entered space, they were met by a new kind of army, warriors who fought without fear, soldiers who never retreated, officers who led from the front. And at the head of this army, wearing armor of black and silver, stood a human. His name was the Human Blade, the Queen's champion, the living shield. Behind him stood Princess, now Queen, crowned after her mother's peaceful passing. Her silver hand rested on his shoulder. Her violet eyes burned with determination. And behind them stood an empire reborn. The enemy commanders looked at the battle formations. They saw the discipline, the focus, the absolute lack of fear. "What happened to them?" one commander asked. "They were supposed to be weak." His subordinate checked the intelligence reports. His face went pale. "The reports say, a human happened to them, one human. One human changed an entire empire." "Yes, sir, and now he stands between us and victory." The commander was quiet for a long moment. Then he gave an order that shocked everyone. "Retreat." "Sir." "I said retreat. I will not sacrifice my fleet against whatever that is." He pointed at the figure standing at the front of the army, the small human in black armor, waiting patiently for the battle to begin. "Some fights cannot be won. This is one of them." The enemy fleet turned and fled. On the flagship watched them go. He felt a hand slip into his own. He looked down and saw standing beside him. "They ran," she said, wonder in her voice. "They saw you and ran." "They saw all of us," corrected gently. "They saw what we built together." She squeezed his hand. "And what happens now?" Looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the retreating enemy fleet, beyond the borders of the empire, was Earth, his home, his people. "Now," he said, "we make sure no one ever threatens this empire again. And then, maybe we introduce to Earth. I think our peoples have a lot to learn from each other." Smiled, "I would like that." They stood together, human and warrior and queen, watching the stars shine in the endless darkness. Behind them, an empire was safe. Ahead of them, a future waited to be built. And the human who had started as a prisoner and become a legend smiled. This was where he was meant to be. This was home,